I'm in the process of reading a book, and it's called Change Your World by John Maxwell and Rob Hoskins. Now, it's a phenomenal book because it really talks about how we can change our world, how we can make a difference in our lives, and by doing so, becoming the change we want to see in the world and help other people to change their world and start a ripple effect. And Rob was actually talking about a guy who in his mind was the biggest influencer in the 20th century. And that guy was Norman Borlaug. Now, when he mentioned that guy, most of you probably don't even know who he is, but I had heard of him. And I looked back, and it was actually a talk I did for Toastmasters on the butterfly effect, where he was an example. Now, first of all, the butterfly effect. If you don't know about this, what happened was in 1963, the butterfly effect was first presented as a thesis in the New York Academy of Sciences, and it was actually laughed out of court. She had stated that the butterfly could flap its wings and would move molecules, which in turn would move other molecules until it could eventually cause a hurricane on the other side of the planet. However, in the 90s, professors proved this theory to be right, to be viable, and work every time. And it would work not only for a butterfly, but for all moving matter, including people. See, they even gave it a law, just like the law of gravity, and it became the law of sensitive dependence upon initial conditions. And it works every time. Now, whatever you may do right now really matters, as you will never know what impact you will have, not in your own life, but on future generations. See, have you actually ever thought about that kind of thing? Now, bear in mind that as I give you a great example about the butterfly effect, which I, as I said, heard from a guy called Andy Andrews. Now, he talks about an interesting story about, get it, a guy called Norman Borlaug. And he got recognition in the form of the Nobel Peace Prize in the 1970s, in 1970 actually, for hybridizing corn and wheat for climates such as Siberia, the Dust Bowl of Western Africa, and the desert of the southern USA, and including South America. He even went to India and other kind of places. And it had saved, what he did, it saved well over 1 billion lives so far, and counting, of course. But the question is, was he responsible for this? Was it not Henry Wallace? And who was Henry Wallace? Well, he was the vice president to Roosevelt, who in that position set up a station in Mexico with its sole purpose to hybridize corn and wheat for all kinds of climates. And he hired a young man called Norman Borlaug to run it. Now, it was Norman who got the Nobel Peace Prize for it. But really, when you think about it, was it not Henry Wallace who saved these 1 billion people? Should he not have had the reward for recognition? Really? Unless it was, now get this, George Washington Carver. Maybe you've heard of him, the peanut guy, because at 19 years old, he had a professor who would, at the weekends, let his own 6-year-old son go on a botanical expedition with this brilliant young student. Now, it was George Washington Carver who inspired this young boy, Henry Wallace, to get a vision about plants and what they could do for humanity. George Washington Carver, the guy who kind of flapped his butterfly wings and created 266 items, including penicillin and cardboard, from a peanut, who flapped his wings and created 88 items from the sweet potato, things we still use to this day. He happened to flap his wings a few times at a 6-year-old boy who just happened to save the lives of 1 billion people. So maybe it should have been George Washington Carver who saved all these people and be recognized. Unless it was a Missouri farmer called Moses, going even further back. Now, you would have never heard about Moses. You might have heard about George Washington Carver, but Moses lived with his wife Susan in a farm in a slave state, but they did not recognize this, which was a problem for psychos like what did they call them, the Contrillas. The Contrillas raiders, I believe it was, who came through the farm one night, burned the property, shot people, and dragged a lady called Mary off as she refused to let go of her little baby, George. Now, Mary Washington was Susan's best friend, so Moses did all he could to get the little boy back. So one evening he rode hours north to meet 4 of these raiders with their torches and sacks over their heads, with their eyes cut out of these sacks. And he gave them his last horse as a trade-in for the sack they threw at him. And he caught this sack, and while he did, these raiders rode off, and in that sack was a small parcel of an infant boy, barely alive. See, he opened his jacket and shirt, and so he could protect that boy from the cold while giving it some warmth. Now, he walked all the way home while talking to this little boy, as they knew the mother had already been murdered. So Moses and Susan Carver raised this little boy as their own. So when you think of it, maybe it was Moses, the farmer, who saved those 1 billion people, unless, you see, how far back do we need to go? We can go back much further, but I think you get the picture. See, Moses would never have known what would have happened with George Washington Carver, the famous guy, and how many inventions and patents he had. And he would certainly not have known about Wallace and then Norman Borlaug, what they did. But he did something in his life that made a difference. See, how far back can we go to show the lives you will touch to generations not yet born, whose lives you will influence with what you will do and can't do today? Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. Everything you do matters, and you matter. Now, it was a wonderful story, but it came back for me just from this book, because there are many opportunities out there. And according to my mentor, Les Brown, we all have at least 4 great opportunities a year. And if we took just one of those, we could have a totally different, much more productive and influential life. See, as the butterfly effect has already shown, we might never know how big an influence we will have on others. But by taking positive steps on a daily basis, we can increase our chances of leaving this world a better place for future generations. And who knows, instead of just leaving a legacy, we might also start to live a legacy, which me and my wife, Dr. Arthie Moore Roberts, always talk about, rather than leave a legacy, live one. And John Maxwell mentioned in one of his books, Intentional Living, which is a phenomenal book as well, see, a butterfly cannot go back to being a caterpillar. See, when you start living the significant story, you get a taste for making a difference, and you will never go back. As he said, once you've tasted significance, success will never be enough. See, good intentions alone aren't enough to make a difference. We all get good intentions, and we might do something good, but the world is paved with good intentions. But people with good intentions might do something good occasionally. But people who live an intentional life do something good continually. People, you're done being a caterpillar. Your wings are ready. So how will you flop your wings? What will you do? How big a difference do you want to make in your family, in your community, in this world? Now, it's not going to happen all by itself. When you, as Coach Wooden's motto states, make every day your masterpiece, you will wake up every morning ready to flop your wings and make a difference. People, the time has come to flop your wings, and let's make a difference together.